You can play the video, Toma.
Catalyst 2030 started life as a WhatsApp group among social entrepreneurs, connecting to envision real transformational change. Launched at the World Economic Forum in January 2020, it's grown into a global movement accelerating change to ensure the SDGs are reached by 2030. Fueled by passion, our 550 members working in 175 countries have collectively put in an amazing 50,000 volunteer hours, touching the lives of 2 billion people. And we're driven by values, to which we hold ourselves accountable. 2020 was a busy year, co-creating 3 reports with partners and producing one of our own. Inviting high-level guests to participate in the Catalyzing Change campaign, hosting fireside chats and expert hours, which will be continuing in 2021. To celebrate our achievements, together we placed our supporters in the limelight with the first Catalyst 2030 Awards for Systemic Change. With the blessing of the Dalai Lama, we celebrated finalists and winners in the following categories: special recognition for our early supporters, individual philanthropists, donor organizations, philanthropic intermediaries, corporate organizations, bi- and multilateral organizations, and 4 regional winners in the category of national governments. And now on to Catalyzing Change Week 2021. During this social entrepreneur-led event, we bring together diverse stakeholders in over 100 sessions to showcase their systems change efforts and the best practices that can accelerate our work in pursuit of the SDGs.
Thank you, Toma. Thank you. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining our session. I'm going to not introduce our amazing speakers because I will not do justice to them. Please go on LinkedIn, connect, learn about every one of them. From Debbi Brock, who's amazing and magnetic, that brought all of us together. I now open up this session for our speakers. And the next, Denise, you're the next, Dr. Denise Crossan, you're the next one.
Hi, Saleha, thank you so much. Okay, so I'm excited about this session. We get to share what we do with you all. It's really cool. We're going to start with a warm-up exercise, and we're going to do it on Mural. So I'm going to pop a link into the chat here, and hopefully you will be able to see the mural that we're going to be visiting. Give me 1 second, because the link has disappeared on me. So it is going to be a where are you in the world map, and another little exercise that we have. Hopefully you can see that. It might have just come in 3 times actually. There's a bit of a delay. So if you're familiar with Mural, if you want to just go ahead and click on that link, it will take you to this big page that we have. I see some people popping in it already. What you'll see on the mural is 2 exercises. So on the left-hand side, there's a picture of the world map. And on the other side, we have these 3 circles that are really colorful. If anybody's a graphic designer, I apologize ahead of time, because it's probably giving you a headache looking at it. But what I want you to do is to start in on the left-hand side, and we're going to find out where you are in the world. What I'd like you to do is just to zoom in there, if you can see it, and find a little name tag, double click on it, enter your name and the city where you're located, and just drag it over to the world map so we can see where everybody is. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll hopefully try and answer them for you. And that includes our own team. Did our own panelists put themselves in the, where are we? You can also say, if you want to say where you were born, that might be a way to do it too. And I am in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania right now. So I am going to do that. Let's just see. I think I'm beside Sasha, in fact. Or I may be in Georgia. I'm not quite sure. I'm on the East Coast. We don't have to be too accurate. Somewhere there. We get a sense of where people are. Very cool. We have someone in Abu Dhabi. Song, you're very welcome. Lots of people joining now. Start to see our map populated. Someone in North Carolina. Debbi. Good, actually. I get to see where you all are rather than on a screen, which is fantastic. Someone in Hamburg. Close to Toma, who is in Norway at the moment. Okay, cool. I like the way you can see all the tags in Mural. You get to see everybody moving around in the space. It looks like everybody's pretty familiar with Mural too, which is kind of cool. Of course, we have Sue in Hong Kong.
Very lonely. Nobody's around me.
Yeah, we don't.
Aw.
Excellent.
Ah, there's somebody nearby. Oh, it's just constructing. Oh.
I'm saying hello, Sue.
Stephanie's in Calgary. Nice to see you, Stephanie.
Salim is in Egypt, but I bet she's online and doesn't have it. Of course, that requires me to know where Egypt is here.
Pop it in.
It's somewhere in North Africa, not sure where.
Okay, you're all doing a good job. Excellent. So just being mindful of time. You can keep doing that exercise, but I'm going to move you over to the second exercise. So if you scroll to the right of your mural exercise, you'll see we've got these lovely circles here. Everybody's looking at that now, I think. Toma, if you can share your screen possibly, and then I can still look at my tab, then whoever's not able to see this on their browser might be able to just see it through the Zoom call. That would be cool.
I'll do it for you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So on the second side, we've got a little exercise for you, which is about telling us more about yourself and why you do what you do, right? Now, if you're familiar with Mural, you can go ahead and answer the first 4 questions. They're really simple. And I have a little example there in the first circle that you'll see. So in the yellow Post-it, I put my name. In the blue Post-it, I put in my favorite animal, which is a dog. And then in the green Post-its, I've written what my social impact area is. For me, it's social innovation education. And then in the outer pink Post-it, I've put how I describe myself typically, which is an educator. So go ahead and do that with the 4 Post-its that you see there. And let's see how this works. If you want to focus in on the first circle, I think we've got enough people to fill the first circle. That would be great. And you're doing an excellent job. All the names are going in, which is terrific.
And if somebody doesn't have, they're on your phone, just put it in the chat and I'll try to put it in for you. Saleha's box got really small.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
I did it for you.
Oh, great. Thank you.
There we go.
Good. A math from Senegal. All right. So a math, what about your favorite animal and what you do? And then the pink one is how do you identify yourself?
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Somebody took away my animal.
Still your animal? Hummingbird, it's still there.
Thank you.
So my animal is gone too, so that's okay. I can't worry about
Oh,
it.
Jill's here. Jill Viot is one of our social entrepreneurs. I pronounced her name wrong.
So we're on Mural and we're doing a little exercise. I'm just going to share it with you. If you're familiar with Mural, you can just jump on the tab, and we're on the right-hand side of the Mural board at the moment.
I also put on Mural.
Wow, we have 3 tables. How nice.
We're all doing an excellent job. So how popular are dogs? There's a lot of dogs and cats. Yeah. Oh, bear. That's cool. And we have economic justice, collaboration, sustainable development goals, which is excellent, climate change, education, all brilliant. Okay, cool.
Good.
I think everybody's got the hang of it. Jill, I see you're still adding in yours, which is great. Anouk has put an elephant in. I'm just going to add the link to the mural in again for anyone who's still joining us to come in and if they want to jump in on the exercise. Okay, so I'm gonna throw you the 5th question, right? So in the 5th question, we're just focusing on the pink Post-its on the outside of the circle where you've put in how you describe your job. So for me, it's educator. What I would love you to do is to change the color of that Post-it depending on the categories that I have below. So if you're, pardon?
I was trying to find your category colors. There it is.
Yes, they are down at the bottom. So number 5, this is question number 5. So if you're an educator, turn it to dark green. Now the way that you do that is just click on the Post-it once and a little menu will pop up and you can see the pink Post-it and you can actually change it to the color that you think you should go to. So I've just changed mine to a dark green for educator. If you're a social innovator, a social entrepreneur, maybe you want to pick the dark orange. Policymakers could be dark pink. And then a funder could be dark blue. And if you want to pick another color, that's fine too. We're just getting a sense of how many of us are in similar kinds of jobs around the circle so we know who the audience is. So this is great. I'm just going to, again, put this link in just in case anybody's joining a bit late. Excuse me. Okay, cool. Nice to see you, Richard.
What was the social innovator? Was it gold or orange?
Innovator is dark orange.
Mm-hmm.
So this is great. We may be running over time.
I know.
It looks like we've got lots of green, which is amazing. We're all educators. There's one last thing I want you to do. If you're an educator or if you often have to teach about social innovation, social entrepreneurship, or if you're a learner in this space and it's a regular part of your conversation and the work that you do, I want you to give yourself a little star. So do you see the little stars at the bottom? I want you just to put it up here at the top. You can grab one and you just move them up there at the top outside your name. And you can make it as big as you like if you want to. They're all big stars. Perfect.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you. This gives us a great sense of who's here, which is amazing.
Exactly. And that was our whole goal there, is we wanted to get this wonderful opportunity to get to know each of you and also have you utilize this tool for Canvas, or I'm sorry, for Mural, because it allows you to see what everyone else is doing around the world and where they're from and what their interests are. So feel free to play with it as we continue. One of the things in this session we wanted to talk about is really about the systems change and the opportunities to how do we educate and prepare folks for that higher level thinking to achieve systems level change. And when I was in a session earlier yesterday, a lot of people were like, but how do you define it? And I think the most easiest definition came from the team that wrote this report, The Water of Systems Change. It was John Kanya, Mark Kramer, and then Peter Senge. And they said systems change is about shifting the conditions that are holding the problem in place. this long-term problem the way it's always been. We have done with this slide deck. We're going to share that. Toma's going to share the slide deck with you. There's some hidden slides along the way. So we also include additional materials, but you don't necessarily see it because of the time here. We framed this session thinking about this areas of focus for systems change education. And this was actually written by Daniela Pappy-Thornton and another guy, Kubesa, John. And this is what we're gonna frame things. One is that when you're working on systems level change, you have to do the inner work first. So building that self-awareness, understanding yourself and your emotions, you know, fostering this sense of empathy and giving in what you do. But then also understanding privilege and power. The one on the right here, the systems tools, and I'm sorry, the bottom one, the systems orientation. So how do we move people into a more systems type thinking, strategic, long-term, think of your theory of change, social impact. So we have this collective understanding and we're understanding how to do this work. The systems tools and frameworks. So what are the foundations, whether developing curriculum for education for teaching, or whether we're developing curriculum for people that we're working with, so that we understand how do we get to systems level change? How do we help our shareholders, stakeholders, working with them? How do we help them understand it, whether that's donors or supporters? And then let's identify this root cause. What's the roots that are holding this problem in place? And then lastly, this practice and participatory methods. So how do we rethink the complex models? We have to understand who's in our sessions, who's with us in this journey. We need to have the diversity of thought and thinking. Also, we forget about, at Catalyst, we talk about clients. So those that we seek to serve, some people used to use the term beneficiary. So our stakeholders, I keep saying shareholders, but our stakeholders in the organization. So who are those clients, and are they part of that voice? Are they participating in helping us design the systems level change? And then if you're teaching, how do we change the boundaries? And you're going to get some examples today about let's get folks out of classroom mode into the community and understand how to do this important work. From an empathy perspective, again, we have some tools that are hidden here. If you do empathy mapping, if you're trying to understand who your social entrepreneur, who your customers are, so who are those clients, you can look at how they think, how they feel, how they do, and you can do this collaboratively. You can do it fun with Post-it notes. You can do it in a conversation. The systems orientation, and this comes back to the team there with John Kenya, is the 6 conditions that hold these systemic problems in place. Kind of the structural problems, which is a lot of what Catalyst is doing. Let's work on the policy changes. What is the policy that is holding these conditions in place? What practices are we doing? How do we affect those? Resource flows. So we just did these huge awards last month with some of the funders that are supporting social change, and they're supporting the systems level change, and they're supporting that we may have some failures, that we don't have to do all successes, but those resources need to be made available for us to test out some of these great ideas. The middle piece here is that relational piece. How do we do relational and those connections? And for us, it's collaboration. We really can't achieve systems level impact unless we collaborate together. And we talk about collaborative impact. The thing that's pushing us again is this power dynamics. So we have formal power and we have informal powers, but how are these power dynamics influencing our work? And how do we move the dial on the power dynamics to be more collaborative? And I think that's one of the just beauties of being a part of Catalyst, is that we are so intentional about the power dynamics to keep that from happening. And then at the bottom there, if we really want to achieve this transformational change, this high level change, we really have to change the mental models. What are the mental models that are keeping these systems in place? What are these deeply held beliefs? What are our assumptions about things? And we have to break that. So I think this is a good frame for what we're doing today, is to think about how this all relates together. Obviously, all of us have taught or worked with theory of change. Sorry, my arrows are wrong, but let's look at the social impact. We no longer start with our resources and our activities. We start with the end impact we want to achieve and work our way backwards. We can get the funding, we can get the resources, but we have to see what our end goal is first. So let's think about those. And then another tool for systems change is mapping the system. And the Oxford folks at the University of Oxford has this big competition they do every year. I know Saleha is one of the judges. I think Denise has worked with them too. And they bring in teams of students from all over the world, undergraduate, master's level, to map the system, not to come up with a plan, but to map the system and understand the system first, and then go to the next parts. We also have other resources like the Media Network, the Systems Practice Toolkit, and some others that we're going to share with you at the end of the session. So I'm going to move this and hand this over to Denise, who has this brilliant social business model canvas that she's going to talk about.
Thank you. Yeah, so I am really excited to show you my social business model canvas. So this is an online collaborative tool using Mural, where your teams can basically pool their information together to work to create their social business model and create social impact, which is super cool. I am going to put the link to the website in the drive there. Oh, and Thomas just done it too. Thank you so much. Okay, so I've been teaching and working in the field of social entrepreneurship since 1994. I learned much about what it takes to set up, maintain, scale your social enterprise through my work in Northern Ireland in their Peace and Reconciliation program. And so I basically applied everything I know into my teaching model for students that are experiencing social entrepreneurship. I think it's really important to teach it that way, to do it while you're learning. And so necessity is certainly the mother of invention here. Last fall, we went into shutdown with the pandemic. We had to teach online. I had hoped to teach the previous versions of the social business model canvas, which I never really kind of liked that much, but I was going to do it. And you know, I had to teach it online. So I suddenly was forced into creating something that I could teach with students that were located all around the world, where they could collaborate together. And I was introduced to Mural and I thought, right, I'm going to do it. So this is what I've done. In the next slide, you can see that there are a number of different additions that I've made to my social business model canvas to make it what seemed to be more representative of the social enterprises I'd worked with in the past. And so it's based on Strategizer's business model canvas, but my version has 14 boxes, and they can, the students can use the Mural to apply their post-its or their notes. They can even add images, and really cool, they can add website links. So you could put like a Google Doc link to a report that the student or team has prepared onto the Mural for easy access. So it's quite cool. They get to map out everything they need for their social business. There's a couple of things that I feel are important that are added to my social business model canvas, which is this idea of do your pre-work, do your systems thinking pre-work beforehand. And I've talked to Daniela Pappy-Thornton about this, and she's really excited that students get to use the impact gap analysis before they come into this work. And of course, with that, there's many different ways that they could create opportunities to create social impact. It doesn't necessarily have to be a social business, but certainly that exercise leans into the value of what students and teams can leverage to create social change through a social business model. So that's the first thing that we do. The 14 other boxes, then I prioritize key stakeholders. I added in beneficiaries and customers, and also funders. I think that's in previous versions, that's the group that's kind of been left out of the mix of the social business model canvas. But we all know that, you know, they're really important stakeholders. So you have to understand how you're going to bring services to them. And those three groups are then kind of, you see them again appearing in the social business model canvas throughout. So it's a really important part. You then have a separate box for the social mission statement. Interestingly, other models didn't have that explicitly. There was nowhere for the team to say, what is my social mission? What do I want to achieve? So we have that. We have, we make them focus on their social value proposition. They have to talk about their social programs, as well as the elements of the social business that they're going to deliver, which we have separately, and we know that they overlap a lot of times in a lot of the models we have. But by dividing them out and getting students and teams to think specifically about what is the social programs, what is the tradable income that I'm going to generate to sustain those social programs, it's a really good exercise, and it's explicit. Again, in my model, I've added a social impact measurement column, right? Not necessarily explicit in other models, but it allows them to say, what are my short-term impacts that I'm going to try and create? What are the medium term? What are the long term? And in a way, it helps them think about the theory of change that they're trying to address and implement within their model. Keeps them on track with that. And the final thing that I want to just point out is in the bottom line, when we talk about the costs for the social programs or the social business element, or even the revenue strategy, I think from my experience in the past, I often don't ask a social enterprise, what's your legal structure? I'll ask them, where's your income coming from? Because that tells me a lot more about where that particular kind of organization might sit on a socioeconomic continuum. So if they're telling me it's from statutory government awards or it's from donations primarily, then I kind of know what kind of organization they might be. If they say, 80% of our income is from tradable services, then I get a sense that, they're perhaps at the more for-profit end of the socioeconomic continuum. So and again, that's really interesting for teams to learn, how do you place yourself in this and use this social business model canvas to do that. The best way to illustrate a social business model canvas is to look at an example. And I know Toma has put the link in there too also. So if you want to go to Mural, you can access this example. The one that you're looking at here was constructed by a group of my students. They are interested in first generation low income students in the United States in college. And they decided that they would, having done their systems thinking, impact gap analysis, realized that education and networking was really important to that group. They decided they would set up a business called Need Bake Serve, which is a bakery essentially, and cooking classes on campus. So when you look at the model, if you explore it on Mural and you get a little closer to it, what you'll see is they've got their beneficiaries, their customers, and their funders in relation to their programs and also to the business. They've got their social mission at the top of it and financial insecurity for first generation low income US college students. They have the name of the business, which is Need Bake Serve. And then it goes to the social value proposition, again, divided according to those stakeholders. You then, beside that to the left, have a column that's their social impact strategy. So they're very clear about how am I going to reach this mission? What are the things that I need to achieve? What am I going to measure as I go along? And then it flows through the rest of the social business model canvas, channel to market, building relationships, who are my key partners, what kind of activities, resources, etc. And then at the very bottom, you can see with the cost section and also the revenue section, it's actually divided, and you can use a pie chart to allow you to really visualize where my income predominantly comes from. And again, like I said, it sort of helps us understand where they might be on the socioeconomic continuum. So that's my tool that I've developed. It's a really great experiential tool. It is based upon systems thinking and allows students to really grapple with how do I do this? What are the key things that I need to think about? So I'm excited to share it with you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. And I am open to any questions. Anybody wants to reach out to me to talk about it, I'd be thrilled.
I absolutely love the business model canvas that she did, and I want to use it so bad. So Sue's going to take us on and talk about simulations and games in the classroom, and she's done some fun things. Audio. We forget we're muted.
About that. Hello, everyone. I'm Sue, and I teach in a business school in Hong Kong. So I'm going to talk about simulating games as a kind of learning approach. So when simulated situations are put into a game context, it contains a model of system. So we're talking about system change. So it's the best way for students to appreciate a context, a system that they could take part in, and learners can provide input input, such as decisions made on strategies, resources deployment, or process management, and observe the consequences of the actions. And that's the most exciting part for them. The advantage of this approach is that it facilitates a kind of collaborative and internet-based learning. So let me take you through some features of simulation game. By the way, I'm doing something that my students don't like is always, I don't talk to the slides, nor I don't actually always follow the slides. So I'm giving you actually some background description of simulation games before I get into the 2 slides that I'm presenting. So some of the features of simulation games would be involving the presentation feedback of the results of the players' actions, and also students can reflect on the briefing questions that you give them. And I want to say I discovered a very interesting and effective tool is using the Google form. Obviously, in the last 2 semesters, we have been using online teaching. And you know, students, you won't see the students, neither do they talk very much. But I find that when I put them into a 10-minute reflection and using Google form after the simulation game, they really put in their own ideas, and also their self-reflection is a really good tool to pull their thoughts out and then express themselves. And the environment in the simulation game actually could be representing a kind of very logical and mathematical calculation, especially in talking about rules as well as calculating the consequences. So some of the games that I played with them include common pool resources, and also double bottom line decision making, and then there are a lot of consequences such as financial payoffs or social impacts. And some of these relations could be known when they're playing, or some of the obviously calculating social impacts and financial payoffs, we have to tell them in advance, and they, after each round, they will be involved in calculating their own values. And also this kind of games allow players to interact, and they could actually kind of simulate kind of team roles, decision making, and they become kind of very collaborative. And also the simulation games could actually provide a simplified view of the reality. These simplifications are due to the kind of allow them to feel that they are making decisions and managing resources, and is basically very difficult to put across when you are just doing lectures. And also some of the assumptions when you're doing simulation games are important to appreciate as well. So with the simulation games approach allows learning to take place as a kind of student-centered and an active process in which knowledge is gained and constructed, whereupon problem solving takes a central position. And knowledge is also context-based, so using simulation games, whether you are working in a factory in order to manage common pool resources, or whether you are talking about running a social enterprise in managing the elderly, the aging population, social marketplace. These are very context-based, and with simulation games, the students can actually get a better feel and also seeing the whole system play out in front of them. So they in the place with games allow the players to take an active role in the learning, and then when they do their debriefing or reflection, it becomes much more effective, and the learning therefore can be internalized. And also using simulation games in learning disciplines like social entrepreneurship, and whereupon they have to appreciate some of the outcomes are not clear-cut or complex, and there could not be always one simplistic outcome, is actually very effective using simulation games. And so this is the best way to put across to them how ill-structured problems could not be easily solved. And so then the beauty of simulation game, as I have told you, is kind of allow all that kind of complexity to be play out in front of them. And here are some of my student reflections. They learn to make the right decision. I learned to be socially responsible, how to make wise use of the limited resources, and decision-making is part of the problem solving. Here is, I put through to you a reference of the common pool resources games that are used in my sustainability module. And also I have designed a double bottom line simulation game. So if you want to, it's still kind of moving from 1.0 to 2.0. So I think it might be put through as a journal article, but if you want to use it, you could contact me directly. So I will pass it on to
Gorgi.
Gorgi, exactly. Yeah, thanks very much for those two inspiring inputs. I'm Gorgi, as you've just heard. What I would like to tell you about is how to harness the entrepreneurial experience. So what I'm talking about is basically a MOOC, a massive open online course that we developed as part of an Interact project. The MOOC is called Accelerating Investment Readiness. That's why it's AirMOOC. If you want to, you can feel free to check it out. We have all the videos that we produced on the YouTube channel, but we also obviously have a platform that would engage you much more deeply into the learning. But the message that I want to send now is basically talk about the benefits of really using the experiences of entrepreneurs in order to conceptualize a systems thinking strategy and a systems thinking integrated model, basically, that will help, I think, both the basically, it will benefit three different stakeholders. It will benefit the educators, I'm going to say something about that, the entrepreneurs, and the students as well. So Debbi, could you just please give us a flavor of a video which is by a social entrepreneur here who's sharing her experience in her impact journey, how she moved from small impact to big impact. So I'll shut up for a second and let you run it. We'll just stop it at like 1:30 or something like that. I'll just shout in when you're supposed to stop it, Debbi.
Sorry, let me make sure I get you guys in there. Google Slides lets you easily go in and out of videos, but when you use your slides instead, it's a little bit harder to manage. Okay, maybe not. There it goes. There we go.
Today, I am Alyssa Jade McDonald Battle, and I am a third-generation farmer, originally from Papua New Guinea. And 12 years ago, I set up a social enterprise in Germany to be founding my company, Bliss GmbH, where we farm cacao. We do cacao farmer education, and we also advise companies and policymakers in Europe and in developing countries on how they can evolve sustainability in regulation, investment, and business practices. As you just heard from my introduction, it sounds like I do a variety of things. I said chocolate company and farming and advising companies on sustainability and policy. Let me bring it together for you in one simple concept. Years ago, I read a book by Jim Collins. He's a writer. He wrote the book Great by Choice, and he's a writer where he's been studying, he's American, and he's been studying, for example, ways that stock-listed, big, proud, strong American companies have grown from innovation and scaled their innovation. Now, when I was reading Jim Collins' book, I thought, okay, he's talking about scaling innovation. As a social entrepreneur, I'm always interested in scaling impact. And what I loved is I took his approach to scaling innovation and thought about what it meant about scaling for impact. And he gave this really great analogy. He said, shoot bullets and then shoot a cannonball. And what he meant by that was come up with bullets, come up with lots of little ideas, some experiments, practices, build a business with lots of experiments, practices, and little bullets. And you practice shooting your little bullets on little targets. And once you find the one bullet for the one target that really makes sense, then you get out your cannonball and you fire the one big missile, like the one big hit that's going to make the impact. And while Mr. Collins mentored in the concept of innovation, I think it really applies to us in social enterprise and in scaling impact. I have 3 examples of how I have practiced shooting bullets and then got out my cannon gun and committed to the big cannonball.
You can stop here, Debbie, as a cliffhanger.
When I started my company, it was 2009. I set up my first.
And she's still talking, but go ahead.
Thanks very much. Yeah, you can continue sharing the slides now, because I will be referring to a model that we basically developed based on what Liz is telling us about her journey as a social entrepreneur. And I found it very impressive that she was especially focusing on this idea of biggest impact, the cannonball, and systems change, basically. So what she did at some point, so she goes on to explain this in a much more elaborate fashion than I'm able to. So watch the video. But the core message is basically conceptualized in this graph that you see here, which is also, by the way, an animated video that is sort of tracing this journey. So you see that we start at 1 and we sort of end at number 7, which also connects to what Denise was saying earlier, because number 7 is really about, what does that mean in terms of funding your financial structure of your venture. But the point that I want to make here is that basically she gives us a very, very vivid account of how at some point she realized that she could grow her impact by growing her own organization, but that this had obvious limits to it. And so at some point she really shifted towards saying, look, what's my biggest lever for having impact? One thing is that I educate others. So she's transmitting her practices as a social entrepreneur to others via education. Second thing is I'm getting together with big business in order not only to, promote sustainable farming practices as a small entrepreneur, but really change those who will be able to affect the system at a larger level and will be able to increase the level playing field. And the third lever that she was pulling basically is that she was saying, I also need to talk to policymakers because they are able to, think about new standards and how the rules of the games could be changed in order to harness this idea of sustainable farming and really increase the impact to the maximum level. So basically, you see in a very vivid fashion how in practice, basically, this type of thinking evolved and how she was able to put it into practice eventually. And so my pitch, so to say, is that the benefits are in relation to 3 stakeholders. First, I, as an educator, learned a lot in terms of, having this firsthand experience of the entrepreneur, and especially in this process of then conceptualizing in this model and really trying to identify the bits and pieces that need to come together in order to get to bigger systems change. As I said earlier, it connects to what Denise was saying in terms of some of the considerations of don't see yourself as an organization only, but really think about, who can you connect with, what pieces need to come together in order to actually get to a viable solution that promotes systems change. The second beneficiary, I would almost say, is the entrepreneur, because I think she also gained a lot in terms of this interaction of having this additional reflection, sort of not imposed, but applied to her actions. And the third beneficiary group, I think, are certainly students who always appreciate this when I use it, because it's very practice oriented, and it's also grounded in a very specific example that you can then follow also with sort of passion and some striking insights from lived experience, basically, rather than having some rather sort of dry or very objectivized case, which is hard to relate to. So this is one way, I think, of how experience can, or how we can improve our way of embracing experience in learning and educating about social entrepreneurship and systems change more generally. So Debbie, you could switch to what we want to do now. So now we want to stop talking, or we want to continue talking, but with you, right? So we want to make you basically in breakup groups reflect about why do you do what you do? So it connects to what Debbi has been saying at the very beginning in terms of, your inner work, really thinking about the purpose of the activities that you're doing, and then connecting it to what we've just said. So how could some of the prompts that we gave you, the social business model canvas, but also the simulations and games that might be translating some of the challenges of entrepreneurs into a more playful setting, or a third option, really harnessing some of the insights from the field, help you in actually getting to systems change, promoting the kind of work that you're doing, or also challenging it, right? And so we also want to hear, like, this is total nonsense, that this doesn't make sense for me. Have you thought about X, Y, and Z, and really bringing up new impulses? Because what we want to do with this session is basically initiate a process as well as and a conversation that goes beyond this individual session, where we exchange impulses in terms of, what kind of experiential, but also other learning tools can help us get to the goal of systems change. So Thomas is going to break us up into groups. There's going to be always one of us sort of coordinating the groups, not leading the groups. And the idea would be that we talk about some of these questions, right? So why are you pursuing what you're pursuing? And how could some of the impulses that we gave you help you in achieving what you're doing? So I think we'll take about 10 minutes to actually get to know each other a bit better and discuss some of these issues, and then get back together in the plenary in order to reflect on some of the learnings in this interaction. So Thomas, are you ready to break us up? Fantastic. So she's already done it. So please go to your breakout groups, and then we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes and then see what kind of impulses come from the groups. Thanks, everyone. See you in a bit. So actually, I'm not sure how the other groups felt, but we had too little time actually. So we were still in full swing, and then at some point we were thrown out. So the idea would be that we share a little bit of insights from the groups that you had. We actually didn't have time to sort of nominate anyone except me, so I'll just reflect a little bit on what we said in the group. But if someone else from the other groups wants to do that, please feel free to actually step in. So basically the idea here is to think about either further impulses in terms of what could be used in experiential learning and actually getting to a systems perspective. We were talking more about some of the drivers in the professionals that we had, all makers rather than educators in my group, and what was driving their pathway to impact. And two things came out as very important, which is quite nice because they connect to Debbi's intro in terms of really thinking about inner work. And Robin especially was highlighting the role of purpose, and that if you want to build a collaborative ecosystem around your challenge is really the connecting factor. So really trying to identify what people stand for is going to be a good tool or a powerful tool to connect people. And the second point that Peter and Siva were making is that obviously we need to see this as a journey and take little steps towards a sort of roughly defined goal, but persistence and really taking those little steps was a very important aspect here. And they both said that something like the social business model canvas would be good in putting things into perspective, and especially highlighting some of the categories that hadn't been there before in the original version. So who wants to go next? Which group? Did you nominate someone? So I'll just go around. So Debbi, either you or someone from your group who wants to share.
Got it. So I was going to send it off to Jill, but I think she's getting ready for a flight. So I'm afraid to nominate her this early in the morning, California time. But I think I loved a couple of questions. We did have some educators here, but we also had social entrepreneurs. So Jill is a social entrepreneur, and another one was a social entrepreneur who came into this space. And Jill, you're here. Do you want to talk a little bit? I got our audio. So a couple things that came up was definitely the inner work, designing the course. So for those of us who are teaching in social entrepreneurship and designing a course, are we designing it to make students become social entrepreneurs, or are we designing it so that some other reasons? So one thing that was, it's about that change-making mindset. So what Ashoka talks about, when you come into social entrepreneurship, if you're a trainer in this space, we want to inspire people to be change makers. We want them to be change makers not only in their work that they do, in their personal life, in their faith-based groups, in their community groups, and to think more innovatively about solutions to these big social problems. But not necessarily, and to pull this toolkit, I always think of this tool belt, and I've got the theory of change, and I've got the business model canvas, and I've got all these skills in my toolkit. Jill, as a social entrepreneur, she wanted to bring in to her course that she's doing in the fall at Stanford, the actual, not just the social innovators, but those who support them. So they're beneficiaries, and have them have a real conversation with the students or the board members. Or my favorite was the COO, who has to deal with the social entrepreneur and all their crazy ideas. So they had a lot of really interesting ideas about how we can use and bring more people into the conversation and think differently. So Saleha, what about your group? Do you have a nominated? Mm-hmm. Audio?
Yeah, thank you, Debbi. So Al-Haji was in my group, and what is very interesting, I found it very interesting, is that he's from Senegal. And he is one of the first, I should say, social entrepreneur teacher in the country. And social entrepreneurship is not big in Senegal. It's something that's a challenge that he has faced. He's trying to implement this and teach social entrepreneurship to students, so that they become change makers at that level. And so the challenge that he was facing, and he said he's one of the first ones, something not known about, is I told him to change the context and basically go to his administrators and tell them that this entrepreneurial mindset that these students will develop is what will help them move forward in life. Even it will help them tell the story when they're applying to colleges and whether in Senegal or overseas and so on, and the skills that they will develop. So that's, Haji, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I think you said everything, but what I add is here in Senegal, we have to help students to become change makers in their community, and through social entrepreneurship. Here we have many problems, but people wait from the government. They don't take initiative to solve problems, and that's why I did some research in social entrepreneurship. I'm an economics, but social entrepreneurship interests me a lot, and I'm trying to help my students to become change makers in their community. And you give me also an advice. Why not? What if I introduce it in the college? I'm doing that. I'm thinking about. I will think about that and try to reach the college also. Thank you very much for your your session. Thank you.
So should I go ahead with mine, Georgie? Is that okay?
Please. Yeah, okay. Sure.
So we have 4 wonderful members in our group. 2 were looking at mental health. Another was a student who came up with some great perspectives. And we also had a consultant. So we had this really great group of people looking at this space. I'm just going to quickly summarize some of the things that came up. The whole complexity issue of this subject area can be confusing, and we get into the work and we kind of go down rabbit holes sometimes, and it's very important that we have these kinds of tools and mechanisms that allow us to focus and re-examine and iterate and explore what it is we're actually trying to do so that we keep on track with our impact measurement. So that was really interesting. And that we make sure that, you know, our theme of social impact is integrated, or if we're looking at environment, for example, it's integrated across all of these different pieces of work that we do. We also talked about, you know, staying on track in terms of impact and measurement. I think Brenda brought up the kind of issue around, you know, the conversations that we're having, and maybe some of the generalizations that we're making, and how are we actually holding ourselves accountable to it. She brought up the term greenwashing, for example. So, you know, how do we know that we're doing what we said we're doing, and that we're doing it to a standard that we all agree is moving us in the right direction, I think. So I think that's it. I'll leave it at that. I apologize to my team if we missed anybody, but please jump it in the chat if you'd like to. Okay, thank you.
Sue, please. You're still muted, Sue.
Very brief for my group. We have 3 incubators and 1 also an academic, and they all found the tools possibly useful for their training in the process of incubating, mentoring, and also bringing startups up to speed. And so they find the campus simulation games useful, and also system thinking is a good idea. So I think, yeah, it could be summarized like that. Thank you.
I guess this underlines that some of the tools seem to be useful, but at the same time, they're also only tools, and that we really need to get into, you know, shaping the minds, shaping the skills, as well as the collaborative relations between stakeholders in order to actually get to real action. So I hope that you're going to be able to use those, and please continue the conversation, use the resources that we have, and feel free to share others that you might have that we can draw on. And I'll pass it on to Debbi now.
Saleha is going to give you a quick model of her program, and then we'll finish up with some Q&A. Got to unmute. So this slide, as she's getting her unmute off, is just different experiential course models if you're teaching in this space. Go ahead.
Right. Somebody needs to get to the next one. Next slide, please. That's so that's a consulting model that I have developed at the University of Houston. That's what we are using. The SURE stands for Stimulating Urban Renewal Through Entrepreneurship. It's an innovative educational platform that facilitates a partnership between University of Houston students, the entrepreneurs in under-resourced communities, and the executives from the business world. So we bring the executives, the corporate world, directly into the classroom. So the CEO that Debbi talked about, you know, we're bringing these CEOs and everybody into the classroom. So, but why SURE, you know, and why the under-resourced entrepreneurs? This is the story of every major city or everywhere in the world. You have these big cities that are mega capitals, but then the difference between the have and the have-nots is huge. That gap in Houston, we are the energy capital of the world, but our gap is about the national average. And these under-resourced entrepreneurs lack educational resources, they lack the financial resources, they lack the informal networks. And so when you're lacking all of this, it's just no way or almost impossible for you to move forward. But then there is another reason why the SURE model, this educational platform, is very powerful or impactful. Our students in this day and age, in this uncertain world, as we call the VUCA world, they need the skills currency to future-proof their work. They need the skills currency to move. And as an accounting professor, I like to call it balance the unbalanced balance sheet with the skills currency. So that's what, you know, and why does it work? It works because everybody that puts in something gets something out. So the cornerstones of our program is diversity, equity, inclusion, and economic empowerment. And on those cornerstones, our students are addressed as consultants. So we call them consultants. It's totally project-based experiential learning. No textbooks, no exams. It's real hands-on applying everything that they have learned. And as Debbi and Sue and I mean all of the amazing speakers have said, it's not a textbook or a mock problem that their project that they're working on. This is real life. You're dealing with human beings whose livelihood is at stake. So our consultants, our students get real world experience. They develop critical skills and earn course credit because they take the course and it's a 3-hour business school course that they take. Okay, yes. And how do they do that? Because they consult, each student is assigned 4 to 5 entrepreneurs. Okay. And then the under-resourced entrepreneurs, it's free. The program is free for the under-resourced entrepreneurs. They get a world-class business education, one-on-one consulting from students and industry experts, and they build those key relationships. These entrepreneurs come to campus and they sit in the same classroom with the students. Okay, and the end product at the end of the semester, they have developed granular, tailored business plan. So it's a business plan for their own business. And the business community that funds this program, they really benefit because it's very hard for them to reach the bottom of the pyramid. Remember this, they all want to do good. DE&I is very big everywhere. And so how did it, so they come to class and this is where they reach and they get their ROI is multifold. Now the impact has been phenomenal. We have educated 1,300 plus entrepreneurs. We have launched 450 plus businesses in Houston. These are businesses that are not launched, these are businesses that are running, okay? It's not a small, and 77% of my entrepreneurs are Black or Latinx and women. I mean, you talk about womenpreneurs, that's where we are. And below the actually that number has gone up a little, 65% are below the low income level. And we never have to advertise our program, it's just referrals. And we start with financial literacy and that's what they get it. And it's $0 that they pay in tuition. So it's totally free. And we start with financial literacy and then move forward. Thank you.
And we're going to wrap up because we wanted to get done at the 15-minute mark, but feel free to stay on for any Q&A or open things. We told you about toolkits. We've got lots of resources. If you go to the website, Tom will add it as well, socialchangeinnovators.com. We've got 12 teaching modules. So literally, if you're teaching a new topic on design thinking, on social innovation, on systems change, we kind of curated kind of the best practices, pick some articles that you want to assign or read yourself. Here's a video to share. You can share, have them watch a video before class or a short video to put in. And then the slide decks are provided as well. As more faculty engage, we get more slide decks. And I know for me, when I was sharing with a colleague out of Australia, I had an undergrad class. She would take some of my slides, put it into her class. I would go see her class modules. I would steal her slides, put it into mine, always citing our, the people that we got things from. But what was so amazing about it is I would have never known about Denise's work if it wasn't for that sharing that was happening between colleagues. So a lot of the tools that we talked about today are available on Canvas. I will share with Catalyst 2030 that we're kind of heading up the third pillar, which how do we facilitate systems change and learning with our social entrepreneurs, with the folks that are teaching at the university level, but also passing all that knowledge and information and resources along to others. So we appreciate so much that you joined us today. We have our emails up here. We'll also share them in the chat. And if anybody has any questions or want to stay on, they are welcome to do so. If you need to leave, that's fine as well. So give a shout out to our speakers, thank them for their work, and say goodbye if you need to leave. And if you're going to stick around, we can have some more Q&A. All right.
Just one quick question.
Everyone. Thank you to everyone that joined us this morning. And thank you to my amazing panelists.
Please, Richard, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, is it okay? There's so many different links to download the chat.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
We
of
will-
course. Yeah, sure.
Mhm. We have all your emails, so we will follow up with everyone's email that registered.
Okay, wonderful.
So
Thank
you will get the full slide set as well, and we have a couple of resources hidden there even. So we know that it's been a lot, I think, but maybe it's going to be a good repertoire to just relate to as you move forward.
Awesome, awesome. Because I'm in the heart of New York City, so I'd love to hear more about the program in Houston.
Mhm.
So yes, and we'd love to share it with you, free. Who
Awesome.
said that?
Mhm.
Richard, my name is Richard.
Right, Richard. Yes, Richard. We'd love to help you implement this.
Okay, awesome. Thank you
Because
so much.
soon is, yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat so you can write to me right away.
Wonderful.
For some reason, my chat was deactivated. Just
Yeah, so is mine. It says it's disabled.
We don't know why it does that. It's one of the defaults, but like I said, we'll share that information. It has something to do with all the copyrights. So, but we will share it.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Great,
Wonderful
thank you.
session.
Okay,
And
thank you very much.
This video will be posted as well. So
Okay.
you can share it
Thank-
with others.
Thanks,
Can you
everyone.
post where we can find it? Because
Right.
when I went, it wasn't where I thought it was supposed to be. Do you have an address you can also post in the chat where we'll find it?
Oh,
Uh,
Website.
the video you mean?
Yeah, I went to
Yes.
this website and,
It's where you registered, but Toma, she'll look it up
okay.
unless I lost her.
Yeah, I- she's on
Okay,
the phone, I see her.
Saleha,
All right, thank you.
Saleha,
Yes, yes.
I'm going and thank you. Can you give me your email address?
Mhm.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat.
Okay, Richard, thank you very much.
Right.
And I will be
right,
touching you
yes.
all. And all the presentation was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Right.
everybody. It was awesome.
Besides the slides, Georgie, can we send everything, all the links in the chat to everyone that attended the session?
Yes, we will.
Yes. Right, yes. Right. Alex, I'll connect with you as well. Thank you for your comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you here, Alex. See you later.
See you
Bye,
tomorrow.
Alex.
Right, yes, we will see each other.
Bye, guys.
So,
Take care.
Bye,
yeah,
everyone.
several